Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to this week's episode of We Are Careers. Great to have you all here with us. Welcome, as always. In a slight change to the programming schedule for this week, we were due to be joined originally by Daniel Pickett for an episode around kind of SEND careers. That is still going to be happening, but for unforeseen circumstances, we've had to reschedule. So we've kind of put into the schedule something that we think is going to be really sort of interesting and really useful for lots of different careers professionals. We're going to kind of come on to what it's all going to be about in a second, but we're really focusing on this idea of the Careers Toolkit today. What's in your Careers Toolkit? So that's going to be the main focus of our episode, but we'll kind of dig into that in a little bit more detail. And for those who've not kind of come across the show before, welcome. This is We Are Careers. I am one half of We Are Careers. My name's Chris Webb. I'm higher education careers professional and a member of the Cdi, registered career development professional, and one kind of half, as I say, of the We Are Careers team, joined as always by the second half, possibly the better half of the team, Sabiha. So how are you, Sabiha? Having a good week so far?
I love that you're kind of prepping me up in that way. Okay, I'm going to go with definitely. If I go for the better looking half, am I going to be am I going to be too cheeky to say that? Anybody want to share comments? By all means, do so. I have to say though, when it comes to knowledge, you are definitely a fountain of knowledge, and that's why I'm really excited about what we're going to be talking about here today. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm known as Sabiha, and I work internationally helping young professionals get unstuck and get back into career flow. And in fact, I'm excited because I'm going to be talking to you today about one of the techniques, a biohack technique that I've developed as part of my toolkit. So make sure that you stay till the end. And if you're a CDI member, we've got an extra bonus because that session that I did that goes into more detail about that has actually been recorded last year. And I'll talk a bit more about that in detail coming later in the show. I'm also known as the creator of the I Am Thriving Career Coaching Program, where I work with and I teach international career coaches on how to help their clients create even more powerful transformation without wasting resources and time on tools that don't work. So this is right in my wheelhouse today. So yep, we're a little bit sad, and don't worry, as Chris said, we are going to be bringing you that episode on Send very shortly in the coming weeks and months. But today we are going to be focusing on tools. So for those of you that are watching us live right now, pop into the comments section, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure that you never miss any of these episodes, because if you like us, you'll have lots and lots of things happening on a day-to-day basis. So it's easy to overlook. So make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button and that bell button on YouTube, or even setting those reminders up. Now, we always like to start the show with a Cdi shout out of the week. And we always like to encourage those of you who are watching, particularly those of you watching live, to sort of kind of show some appreciation. If there's a name here on the list of the shout out that we're going to celebrate right now, maybe it's your name that you're hearing, pop it in the chat, say hello to us. We love hearing from you. We also love hearing what part of sort of the careers profession you are working in and what type of community you are serving. The reason why we like to celebrate is because there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, let's be honest. If you turn on the TV, and we're going to be talking about Ukraine as well in today's show, and so there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, and so we want this show to be a source of inspiration, a source of joy and happiness in terms of the work that we all do. And so we want to mark and celebrate the newest RCDP members of the CDI community. And we know you are a friendly bunch, and so let's together give everybody a warm welcome who've recently joined the community. Now, if you hear someone else's name and you think, I'm working with that person, or I know that person, tag them in the show. Let them know that they are being celebrated. And as always, hit that like button if you're enjoying these shows and the awesome guests that we bring each time. Make sure that you hit subscribe and like button. Also, as well, just a reminder, extra special treat, it will be included for those CDI members. If you haven't already received your badge, so that's this little nugget over here, okay? You should have got one of these or a member's badge in the post, but if you haven't, we'll include a form that you can click onto in the resources document, as always, that come with the show. Now, CDI will endeavour to get your badge posted out to you as soon as they can. There is a bit of a backlog, so do watch this space. So who are we celebrating this week? So let's go through the list. So we've got Shayla Bledsoe, Sally Brown, Louise Cattrall-Godden, Stuart Clark, Hayley Dave, Natalie Freeman, Avril Gallagher, Karen Gray, Amy Hodge, Simone Simmons, Victoria Sinclair, Owen Boboda, Geeta Upal, and Elena Williams. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here. Chris, did you recognize any of those names, or are these new, fresh names and faces that you're hearing?
No, I recognise quite a few of those names from various interactions sort of through social media. So yeah, good to see those names on there. And yeah, as we say, more badge wearers is always a good thing. So.
Definitely. And so, Chris, you mentioned at the beginning of the show that we're going to be talking about the Career Toolkit. So this is all about, the focus today is all about us, the career professional, the career practitioner who's out there, you know, transforming lives, serving our communities, whoever that community is, whether it's young people, students, you know, new graduates, older workers, working mums, people trying to get back into employment, whoever that is, whoever that community is. And so what are we looking at? What are we going to be exploring today with regard to the Career Toolkit, Chris?
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually, about how kind of broad this topic might end up being. And obviously, we want to get some engagement from the audience that are here today. We'll kind of come on to that shortly. So, yeah, this episode really is all about our kind of what do we have in our careers toolkits? You know, what do we kind of use within our practice on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis to support us in the work that we do with clients. And I think the point you made is a really important one, that obviously across the careers community, we're working with a vast array of different client groups. And that's why we're so keen today, for those who are watching live with us, you know, to actually kind of get involved in this conversation as we move along and talk about what's in your careers toolkit if you're watching the show. But in terms of kind of starting out with, you know, a little bit of a prompt, I suppose, and someone's mentioned this in the chat, our kind of bag of tricks, probably only fair if we kind of start from our own perspective. So, Sabiha, coming to you kind of first, you know, what is in your careers toolkit these days? What sort of things do you tend to use in your practice that you find particularly useful, I guess?
Oh, thank you for that, Chris. And yes, I can see that there's also some other creators who are watching us live right now. Catherine Jennings, and I know we're going to be talking about some of the tools and resources that she's created coming up. So keep watching, everybody. Now, just to put some kind of a little bit of context, okay, to why we've chosen this subject. And I think I want to, and thank you, Chris, for saying, okay, Sabiha, what does that mean for you? So as a passionate, I mean, for those of you that don't know me, and if it's not leaping out on your screens right now, okay, I am a passionate career professional. Now, it was not a profession that I chose myself. It was something that I accidentally fell into. Perhaps maybe you're resonating with this. Perhaps you've ended up in this career choice by accident, by happenstance. And so if that's the case, when I did finally make that decision, conscious decision to say, right, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I want to invest my time, effort and energy in, I made a very conscious choice also as well that I wanted to be the best that I could be. Now, that's not to say that I'm competing with Chris, because Chris is a phenomenal practitioner and I've seen him in action. I've heard him speak at conferences, and the value and the contribution that he brings is just phenomenal. But I wanted to understand it from my own perspective, using all that knowledge that is out there, you know, and how we can stand on the shoulders of other great practitioners that have come before us. Because trying to work in isolation, and I'm talking particularly at the moment for those of you who feel isolated often in the work that you do, because maybe perhaps you're working in an educational setting and you're the only careers professional within your establishment. Or maybe you're working as a private practitioner like I do, which means that, you know, you're working on your own, or perhaps you're working as a consultant. And so you're going into organizations and helping them transform the way that they provide career guidance and support. And so that being said, okay, I think I like to start this conversation off with talking about career flow. And more recently, there was a really great example, and it was in the private practitioner LinkedIn group. So by the way, if you're a private practitioner and you're not in the group, please go ahead and, you know, send a request to join, because there's a whole host of content and support that is available for you. And Lisa LaRue gave an example on her paper, and we're going to be including the link to this paper in the resources document. Now, you do need to be member of the CDI to get access to this. Of course, you can watch the show as you are right now, and you don't need to be a member. But if you want the extra bonuses, the badges and the resources document and a list of everything that we're talking about here today, you do have to be a member. Now, if you're wondering how you can become a member, it's really easy. You head on over to the CDI website. There's a quick, simple form to fill in. For less than, I'm going to say, sort of a Nando's meal, you can be a member and get access to all this fantastic resource that's going to allow you with ease to keep up to date with what's happening in the sector and the profession, but also as well, get the support and the guidance that you need. Because yes, we as career professionals guide and support our clients, but we also need that guidance and support as well. And so coming back to the point that I was saying about the career flow, Lisa LaRue mentions, and she goes into much detail about what she classifies as career flow. And I liked this explanation, which is it's a balance between the perceived challenge of a task and one's perceived skills. Now, career flow is something that I talk about incessantly with my clients. And if you meet me in the street, you're probably going to hear me talk about this as well, because I think it's so important that we as career professionals find a way to help our clients get into career flow with ease. And so after many, many years of working with clients and then feeling my own pain of not being able to effectively transform, taking my clients and getting them, into this career flow with ease, I started to think about what can I do? What do I need to do? And this is where the I Am Thriving 90-second biohack came about. It's what I created. It came out of frustration because maybe you resonate with this. And if you're watching live right now, or maybe you're watching on the replay, let us know in the comment section. We love hearing your feedback. What other frustrations have you felt as a career professional? And what have you done? Have you come up with your own tool like Chris and I are talking about here today? Or perhaps maybe you discovered a tool created by somebody else, another professional that's absolutely doing wonders. Let us know in the chat box features on whatever platform that you're watching us on. And so how this journey looked for me is that I would have clients sitting in front of me, and I would give them amazing tools, whether it was a CV creation, because I'd shown them a hack of how they could quickly and effectively create a CV without spending hours and hours doing rewrites, because I'd directed them to a website, or perhaps maybe they were struggling and didn't know what career path was right for them. And so then I got them to do a personality quiz or a career quiz, right? And so, they would leave, they would be all excited. I'd assign them a task to do. They would then come back a week or so later, and I'd be like, hey, how did you get on with that task? Did you get that, did you complete that CV, or did you use that website, or did you read that book? And they'd go, oh no, Sabiha. And then a list of reasons would be presented in front of me as to why they weren't able to, or why they didn't. Is that resonating with any of you that are watching right now? Have you ever had that? Have you experienced that where your client leaves your session? These days, a lot of our sessions happen virtually, where they leave a session all pumped up, all geared up, all ready to go. But then when you see them again, when you do the follow-up, no movement has been made. They haven't taken action. And so I started to think, well, okay, why is it that the client isn't taking action? What is happening here in our clients' lives, in our clients' psyche, in our clients' minds, that is preventing them? And I realized that one of the biggest challenges was procrastination, right? That they were procrastinating on these tasks for one reason or another. And if we dive in deeper to even what procrastination is, it's it's fear-based. It's ultimately the client not feeling that they are worthy or they are able to take on that challenge, and the skill set that they have, going back to what Lisa LaRue talks about, where the perceived challenge of a task and one's perceived skills, there's a bit of a mismatch. And so I started to experiment, I started to read and find out, well, okay, how can we help? How can I help my clients? But also as well, I use this technique with my coaches, my international coaches. And so I talked about this and I gave a presentation. Now, this is something that I've been using for a number of years now, and it's only now that I've started teaching it to others. And it's a great opportunity for me to be able to teach this skill now. Now, for those of you that are getting interested and thinking, what is this 90-second biohack, that I am thriving biohack, Sabiha, that you're talking about? Now, I haven't got time today to go into the full details. However, on November 25th, 2021, I was invited, thanks to Emma LeBlanc, to do a seminar, full 60-minute seminar on this for our members, and it was actually recorded. And the recorded is available to our members. Plus, there's going to be an article that's going to be coming out next month about the biohack of how you can help your clients get unstuck and thrive during a career coaching session so that they actually get the results that they want. Because here's the thing, when a client comes back to you and they haven't completed the task that they know that they should have done, how do they feel? Are they feeling motivated? Probably not. Maybe they don't even turn up to the next session because they feel shame. They feel embarrassed that they haven't done the things that they know that they should have done. And so this I Am Thriving 90-second biohack allows you to teach your clients how to take action that's going to make them feel, that's going to help them reset, re-energize, and re-engage and get excited about doing the tasks that are going to get them results, that it's going to benefit them to get the results that they want. Now, the great thing about the biohack is, and how I created it was, is that it is literally 90 seconds and you don't need any fancy equipment. There's 3 steps to the biohack. The first step is all about getting your client into, sort of kind of getting them out of their head and getting them into positive thinking. Step 2 is all about getting them connecting their head to their heart. It's all about sort of, using Dr. Amy Cuddy's power pose. And then the final step, step 3, is all about anxious reappraisal, because if we're procrastinating, chances are there's an element of anxiety surrounding the task that they need to complete. And so it's getting them to use their hands. So it's all about the head, the heart, and the hand, and connecting all 3 of these things. So that's enough about the biohack, because there's a couple of other things that I want to share as well. But Chris, before I do that, I know this is probably one of the first times that you're hearing me talk about the biohack. What's going through your mind as I'm sharing that, and what's being said in the chat these days?
Nothing specific in the chat about this. I mean, I think what's interesting about what you've just mentioned is that a lot of it's kind of linked towards that idea of helping clients get unstuck. And I think that's, exactly linked to some of the tools that I've kind of picked today, actually. So perhaps before we kind of come back, this is quite a good segue, really. And I think it's one of those things where you're absolutely right. Any tools that are available that can kind of help us with those conversations where we know it might be slightly more challenging for both ourselves and a client, absolute gold dust. So a couple that I just kind of want to share. We mentioned that I think one of the creators is here watching us today. So apologies in advance for embarrassing her. But what I really love are kind of essentially like visualizations, things that sort of make the process, I guess, of asking and answering career questions much easier. So a good example of this, people might be familiar with Catherine Jennick's "What's Your Strength" cards. Yeah. So these tend to get a lot of airtime on social media. I know Catherine's here with us today. And, these are excellent for exactly that sort of thing. So for those who kind of not come across them, essentially, what you've kind of got is a series of kind of actions or sort of activities people have been involved in. So, for example, I've taken a lead role in a particular type of challenge or group project. And on the back, then a list of the skills and qualities that map up to that. And similarly, the same for kind of particular subjects. So, for example, school subjects, and then on the back, the type of skills and qualities that those represent. So, these can be really, really useful when we're maybe working with kind of clients who don't have perhaps as high level of confidence in their own abilities, or even kind of knowing where to start when it comes to thinking about what motivates them or what engages them, perhaps because they've never really taken that opportunity to kind of sit back and ask those questions of themselves. Another example, which I really love as well, tend to use the strengths profile cards from CAP quite a lot. So less kind of around sort of the skills and qualities, and more around key strengths, particularly around the things that kind of motivate and kind of engage individuals. And again, those type of card sort activities I've always found just sort of takes away from that kind of questioning for people that maybe find it quite difficult to respond to questions or take time to process things, giving people an option, giving people things to choose, and then sort of prompting and asking, why did you make that choice? Just sort of making that entire process of maybe working with stuck clients slightly more straightforward, and also making it feel slightly more comfortable for them as well. And that sort of led me to kind of create some of my own. So I'm a really big fan of Edgar Schein, the career anchors theory. And I ended up certainly when I worked in schools, using these quite a lot. So kind of career anchor cards, getting people to sort of pick the things that really matter to them, whether it's creativity, work-life balance, making a difference, and using that sometimes as kind of like the catalyst for careers conversation. So that was a really nice segue, Sabiha, because I would say that process of getting clients unstuck is, super important. Any tools we have for that, great. And yeah, I would say card sorts always really help me with that.
And what I would add, sorry, go on, Chris. I was just going to say, what I was going to add to that is, because I know obviously, you might be listening to us, you might be thinking, oh, that's great, but it only works with sort of kind of younger client groups, or it only works in an education setting. I have to say, I've used many of the cards that Chris has talked about, including Catherine's. And they work with all sorts of clients. Honestly, I work in private practice. I've worked with older clients, younger clients, and anything in between. And so these tools, even though you may feel, oh, it's only for a specific type of client, you do need to be a little bit creative, I have to say, as a practitioner. And, it's kind of pushing outside of your comfort zone. So this is really who are we talking to today? We're talking to you, the career professional who is passionate, who's motivated, who's driven, who wants transformation for your clients. This is what this today's show is all about. It's giving you even more ideas, more inspiration, looking in our own tool bags to see, hey, what does Sabiha do? What does Chris do? What do other members who are watching and, sharing in the comments with us right now? What kind of tools are they using, so that you can then think about your own reflective practice and go, okay, maybe there is something. Because the worst thing that I don't know about you, Chris, but the worst feeling as a professional is feeling stuck as a professional. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and if we're here to sort of kind of help our clients get unstuck, well, what are the things that we could do? And I've just got somebody here who's just jumped in, and I think it's Liz. I'm going to take a bet, and I think it's Liz. It's so important to stretch your own comfort zone. It's what we encourage our clients to do 100%. And I'm a firm believer that if I'm going to be getting my own clients to do something, then I expect myself at some point to have either used that tool or to sort of kind of take and practice within that. And sort of, kind of talking more about other tools that are in our toolkit. One thing that I like, so obviously I've talked about the biohack, so that's all about at the beginning of that journey. I almost call it like a primer activity, because here's the thing, okay, and Chris has talked about such wonderful, sort of kind of tools, anchor cards. Those are all great and wonderful, but if we can't motivate our clients, if we can't get our clients in a feel-good flow, they're going to walk away from that session feeling, yes, motivated. It's a bit like, when we watch, and we're all guilty of this, and I'll definitely put my hand up. You watch a YouTube video and you think, oh my God, it's amazing. Yes, I'm going to go do that. Maybe it's a keep fit. You watch it, and then sort of days later have passed and you still haven't taken action. You haven't taken, you haven't made any progress towards that action that you said that you're going to do. Right, I'm going to do that keep fit video. It's now weeks, and then you just procrastinate and you put it off, and you think, oh no, Easter's coming up now. I'll start after Easter. I've got a big holiday coming up, right? And you give yourself excuses, don't you? And so how can you really quickly and effectively get clients into flow? And so, these are some of the tools that we're sort of kind of talking about of how we can do that. Now, one other tool that I really like, now, testing, love it or hate it. I think sort of kind of whether it's, personality tests or a career test, they are here to stay, and they have their pros and cons, I will admit. But I do feel that if they are used correctly, they can help you as a career coach, help you navigate and help your clients in a more transformative way. Now, this particular one that I'm going to recommend, I'm recommending because it's aimed at for those of you, those practitioners who are perhaps working with international clients who are based here in the UK. So perhaps maybe you're working with students or international client base, or perhaps maybe you aren't just based here in the UK, you're actually working internationally. So perhaps maybe you have clients in Europe or Africa, in Africa or the US or Southeast Asia, so wherever they are. So, one of the things that I have to do is come up with tools that are sort of universal. And so my go-to sort of kind of personality and career test, and again, I'm going to be including the link in the resources document, is truity.com. They have got phenomenal, that it's backed by data and research as well. So it's not just sort of kind of hokey pokey stuff out there. And there's a free version of the tools that are available. And there's a variety of tools that are available. But in addition to that, there's also the paid service as well. And you can also subscribe as a career professional. So if you are a private practitioner or you're offering your services, you can then sort of kind of buy one of their packages as well. So Chris, over to you. What, do you use personality career testing? What other tools, where do you sit on this?
Yeah, I think there's been such a good point about kind of engaging sort of clients. And I think that, I suppose, the tools that I often keep coming back to, the ones that I think make careers work slightly more engaging from the client's perspective, and in some ways kind of more engaging from our perspective as well. So I think there's definitely a place for kind of careers tools. I think many careers professionals will be familiar with things like the Buzz Quiz from I Could, which again, feels as though it's targeted at a slightly younger market, but I've used with, people all the way up to graduate level, mature students. I think there's a lot of value in that idea of talking about what sort of motivates you at work, almost kind of taking a step back and actually going, which of these things sound like they're plausible to me, which things actually, I've never thought that about myself, and how would that manifest itself in work, for example. So I think there's benefits to all of these things. One that I really like, which I'm just going to show kind of via screen share in a second, is Miro Board, which I've talked about quite a lot on LinkedIn. It's a really, really brilliant tool, educator's tool, for kind of, I guess, showing just a slightly more visual way of kind of working through like careers education sessions, these sort of things. So hopefully this is going to work. You'll have to let me know, Sabiha, if this appears on screen. Let's find out. We haven't used the screen share too much, so hopefully you can see this. Is this sort of coming through?
We can, yes.
Wonderful. So this is an example of a session that I ran with our masters and kind of masters of sort of design courses at Sheffield Hallam University. And it was kind of in between two sessions that I ran. So the first session was all about sort of self-awareness and exploration, and actually set kind of a homework task where people visualized their own career journeys and sent in images that we then used as kind of a launch pad for the next session, where we talked about, the factors that had influenced our career journeys, and how that might kind of impact on future career decision making, and the idea of what career management skills we might need along the way. So these kind of tools like Miro, where they're slightly more free form, they're more exploratory than things like PowerPoint. They give people the opportunity to add like post-its and notes and their thoughts and comments about anything that appears on these boards. Can be really, really helpful. I've used similar ones for kind of CV sessions as well, again, where we start off more of like a journey through kind of a conversation around CVs, rather than something that's kind of perhaps more linear like a PowerPoint presentation. So there are some really good tools out there. Miro is just one of them, but I think anything that we can use from a kind of careers point of view and a career education point of view that makes things more engaging, I think is a real kind of bonus. But that's one digital tool for me.
I love it. And exactly, that's the key. Okay, it's a digital tool, and most of us now at some point, particularly in the last 2 years, have had to, or have been working remotely and virtually, and so having access to these. And like you said, I think it's great. Miro is great for those visual learners, those visual clients as well. And sometimes as well, even when you're articulating a point, just to be able to show a picture and go, this is what I mean, and to be able to demonstrate that is amazing. I'm just going to pick up on some of the feeds, and already, Chris, can you believe we're almost at the end of the show and we haven't even got through our bucket list of tools? I knew this was going to happen. I just wanted to bring in a couple of comments. So we've got here, we really hope, Dave and a few people have been sharing links to some of the resources and things that we've been talking about here today, including the private practitioner LinkedIn group that I mentioned earlier today. Thank you, Catherine. It was talking about, but then Liz came in, and Liz talks about using metaphors and linking these to the client's interests using Google tools, which can be copied and quickly adapted for clients. That is so key in this day and age, because there'll be certain things that we do as career professionals that is repetitive, that is universal, that all clients will need. So for example, CV creation, and creating sort of like a vision board. So that's always great to have. So thank you for that, Liz. Yes, I've used paid tools to help with self-assessment, aptitude, interest, and making recommendations to explore both in career and course. They're a great conversation starter, aren't they, these tests and these tools, to get people thinking about, because sometimes you might have a who's sitting in front of you who's saying to you they're stuck, they're confused, they're lost. Maybe perhaps they've never had this conversation before with somebody else, or maybe they've been having these conversations internally but never really verbalized it, and now they're coming to you as a career professionals looking for that guidance, looking for that support, and you as the expert are there to help them navigate themselves out of this sort of kind of choppy water to get them back, back to land where they can feel calm and back in control of what and how they need to do the things in their career to make that, to build their career success. Yes, someone's just mentioned here, Sue Edwards' decision triangles. I know there's just so many tools, isn't there, that she's brought out as well. And she's also written a Careers Matters career coaching. So there we go. Another of our members sharing some resources that we can do. Chris, it's 1:30 already and we're already at the end. I know you and I had way more tools, lots more tools that I wanted to talk about. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, which was the CDI. So here's what we're going to do, Chris. What do you think? So we include, because I was going to include a book as well that I was going to recommend. If we put these recommendations in the resources document.
Yeah, I think we've got loads of stuff to add, and I think we're going to kind of end, I guess, maybe just 30 seconds each on our absolute all-time useful kind of careers tool or book or podcast. So perhaps if we just kind of name drop that, and then we'll make sure we put it in the show documents. So go on, Sabiha, over to you. Give us put you on the spot, all-time careers tool that you like to use in your practice.
Okay, it's got to be, it's a difficult one, and it's a bit of a cheat, the one that I picked, because there's tools within a tools, and so that has to be the Career Coaching Toolkit book by Dr. Julia Yates. There was a quote, a recommendation on Amazon by John Lees, who also is an author of 14 other career books, and were including How to Get a Job You Love. And he sort of kind of succinctly said this, and I think this nails it for me. The Career Coaching Toolkit is a brilliant idea. Every career professional needs ideas, inspiration, and best practice, but also a kit bag full of practical tools. And this book does exactly that, because it offers you 30 useful and exciting tools which have been set into context of how we can use them, and shows you how to use them and how they work. So any sort of kind of exciting, motivated career professional who hasn't yet come across this book, please do check it out. It's available on Amazon and all good sort of kind of bookshops and retailers. Chris, what did you pick for your all-time favorite?
I'm absolutely going to cheat because I couldn't decide. So I think I've got two books. First one people will be very familiar with, which is Creative Career Coaching Theory into Practice by Leanne Hamlin, Kira Bomford. Again, comes back to what you were talking about having kind of a kit bag and sort of practical tools that you can use. Things like metaphors, analogies that you can kind of come back to through one-to-one appointments or maybe through careers education sessions. But the second one is actually not necessarily from the careers community, and it's one I've talked about quite a bit on this show before, Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans at Stanford University. And it's just honestly changed the way that I approached some of the careers education sessions I teach, in terms of that idea of reframing common stereotypes around careers and trying to kind of look at these things in a more iterative way, even in the way that I kind of present career journeys or deliver sessions, all those sort of things. So that's been such a useful resource for me. So yeah, I've definitely cheated, but there we go.
Well, we're allowed to, it was a tough ask. I know when we put that question down, I knew it was going to be a tough ask to sort of kind of pick one. So the fact that you've whittled it down to two is very impressive, Chris. And I like how you've combined two very different resources. Have we inspired you today? Have you been watching today and have you been inspired? Have there been tools perhaps maybe that we've spoken about here today where you've gone, yep, I'm using that one? Or maybe we've introduced you to some new tools, new ideas, new inspiration, because that's exactly what we were aiming for, to do as a result of today's show, is to sort of kind of help you put even more things, get you out there practicing, experimenting with the tools. So, thank you for joining us today. And we're going to head on over to the news section now. And I'm going to cover the news for the CDI. And then I'm going to hand over to Chris, who's going to talk about the more general news of what's going on within our sectors. Remember, these shows are jam-packed with CPD points. And if you're interested in learning more about the CDI and what it does and how you can become a member, because perhaps maybe you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, this looks interesting to me. As I said, head on over to the CDI websites. There is tons of information as well as details of how you can join and become a member. Now, you don't need to be a qualified. This was asked to me today, so it's important that I share this. So somebody was asking me earlier this morning, Sabiha, but I'm not registered and I don't have any qualifications, but I'm interested in becoming a career professional. Can I still join the CDI? Guess what? The answer is yes, because the CDI have created a wide range of memberships And in fact, if you join as a student, you actually get lots of discounts, including joining some of the courses and online webinars and access to the conferences and things that take place as well, where you get a huge discount if you are a student member as well. So yes, you can join the CDI even if you are not yet sort of kind of holding any form of qualification. And so one of the top 3 stories that I have picked. Well, recently, David Morgan, our CEO of the CDI, talked about the Career Development Policy Group, and they have been holding roundtable discussions on key aspects of the Career Guidance Guarantee. Now, David Morgan chaired the first roundtable focused on support for young people. There was a very lively discussion among politicians, policymakers, career practitioners, and employers covering careers provision in school, which looks at helping young people with employment issues and the future of careers. Now, there are going to be other workshops we'll focus on lifelong learning, developing graduate careers, with a paper summarising the discussions being published once they are completed. So please do check out and look out for further details about that. And then my next 2 stories are all about the National Careers Leaders Conference and Exhibition, which is being jointly organised by the CDI, ISEGS and the University of Derby and Optimus Education. Now, CDI are excited to announce that they will be holding a conference as a live in-person event on Thursday, 30th of June at the University of Derby. And as somebody who's attended, and Chris, I know you've spoken at these, it's definitely worth going, and checking them out. Now, the theme of the conference will be focused on deepening strategic careers leadership, and expert practitioners will be invited attendees to join through the thought-provoking discussion during the session and workshops throughout the day. Now, there is an early bird rate until Monday, the 2nd of May, and you can get access to these early bird tickets and save some money. Who doesn't love saving money? On the website, if you head on over to the CDI website. Now, continuing with the conference, perhaps maybe you're thinking, I don't want to attend the conference, but I do definitely have a subject or a workshop that I'd love to talk about and contribute and share with my fellow community. Well, guess what? As part of the community, to encourage both new and established voices in the career development sector, the CDI are asking for submissions from individuals as well as organisations to lead workshops related to the key theme of the conference that is relevant to the audience. Now, there will be 3 40-minute workshop sessions at the conference. Details again about this are available on the resources document and the website. So if you'd like to submit a proposal for the workshop, please complete the form that's available on the CDI website by 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. So that's me wrapping up all the CDI news for this episode. Chris, what have you got from the wider community?
Yeah, thanks, Sabiha. And I think just before we move on to that, we've got obviously that sort of reminder you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, just around the sort of the Ukrainian refugee support appeal. So just for those who've not come across this already, hopefully if you're a CDI member, you've seen the email in your inbox this week. CDI has kind of coordinated or is coordinating efforts to provide career support to Ukrainian refugees fleeing the war. That is going to kind of be done in conjunction with charities who are already offering the support. So it's going to be a very coordinated effort. In the email, it provides all of the details about sort of how it's going to work. But ostensibly, what we're looking at is if you are a careers professional on the UK register of careers professionals through the CDI, you'll be able to kind of fill in a form and volunteer to offer your support. Now, further down the line, if you are a careers professional but maybe not on the register, that's something to get in contact with the CDI about in terms of seeing how you can support that. The reason they've taken that decision is because it just guarantees that the people on the register have the relevant qualifications for providing kind of careers guidance. So if you've got those qualifications and not on the register, number 1, think about joining the register. Number 2, get in touch with the CDI if you're wanting to still volunteer and support in any way. The second part of that is there's also going to be a webinar taking place in May. And again, we've included all of these details on the show resources document. And that webinar is all going to be all about sort of supporting refugees with kind of career support and careers advice. So there's, be a really, really good event to attend. There's lots of time, obviously, to kind of book onto that through the CDI. And that's something that's open to both members and non-members as well. So worth looking out for. It's going to be an online webinar. So again, a webinar has to be online. So all of that information we'll share in the show resources document. But the CDI are really, really keen to kind of share this with both members and non-members that this kind of campaign of support is happening. So you'll see lots of LinkedIn posts out there. You'll obviously see stuff kind of through the emails that have been sent out to members. do kind of circulate that, do share that with members and non-members alike, so that we can provide as much support as possible through this coordinated campaign. So just a kind of quick sort of update on that before I move on to the general news, and 3 very, very short items, because we're going to put everything else into the show resources document that will be on the Facebook community of practice. My 3 for this week. Number 1 is from Johnny Rich. So Johnny is actually not a careers professional, but has done a lot of work in the higher education sector with careers professionals and outside the higher education sector as well. He is one of the best advocates for careers professionals that I've found outside of the career development sector. And he's put together a brilliant article about why CEIAG matters as part of the submission that he sent for the Education Select Committee review into careers. And it's just a wonderful read. It really, really, I think, provides a perfect outsider's view of why careers guidance is so important. And it's just a fantastic advocacy piece. So do check that out. Second item for this week is from Stay Nimble. So their podcast, Let's Work It Out. So Jennifer and Caroline this week talking about purpose, the value of purpose in our careers, but also what does that mean from a practical level? How do we find our purpose? It's a great episode, only 8 minutes long as well. So perfect for kind of fitting into breaks. And then finally, it seems to be report season at the moment. There's loads and loads of really interesting research reports out, all kind of connected in some way to career development from organisations like Youth Employment UK, the Sutton Trust, DMH Associates. So I've included all of these in the show resources document, some really, really useful and interesting reports that may well have a big impact on the direction of travel for our sector moving forward. So my main news for this week, and obviously, as we always are, we're running over. So all that remains to be left to be said is just to look out for our next episode coming up on Wednesday, the 6th of April at 12 o'clock. Really looking forward to this one. It's going to be all about career talk, the use of TikTok within career development work. And we're going to be joined by Jake Richards and Gina Visram to talk through their experience using this platform to engage their clients. So it's going to be a great episode. Join us in a couple of weeks. We're really looking forward to it. But for now, thank you very much to everyone for joining us. Thanks, Sabiha, for being here today, as always.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. And you know what? You've just reminded me that I've added a few more things now. I think Dave in the comments has just said, a few more books to add to the collection. I think I've just added a few more reports based on your news stories that I need to add, and you've just reminded me as well. So thank you everybody for joining us. Remember, hit that subscribe button, so that you get those reminders. And if you're enjoying this content, if you're enjoying hearing from us and you're loving the guests that we're bringing, hit those like buttons. Your support matters. It allows us to sort of kind of decide what topics and themes that we're going to, pick for future episodes as well. As Chris said, for now, goodbye, and we'll see you on the next show. Bye-bye.